All right, this is where theory meets practice, right? What I'm gonna do is bore sight this, go ahead and try to get this thing zeroed at 24 yards, and then we'll go through and go back 100. All right, this is where theory meets practice, right? I set this rifle up. I've got the scope set up so the rifle and the scope fit my body and my eye. I calculated my maximum point blank range. I know my near is 0. I know my far is 0. I know that I need to be 1.3 inches high at 50, 2.8 inches high at 100. Where problems can arise with this is with miscalculations. I could have, one of the things that is kind of particular when you're doing max point blank range was your distance your scope is above the bore. I didn't measure it. I just assumed it's 1.5 inches. It may be off a little bit, and that'll throw that calculation off. The meteorological data, I didn't change the altitude on the computer when I was calculating, and I surely didn't change the barometric pressure or anything. Those will affect it little. The other thing that's probably a more significant thing is bad data from, I don't want to say the manufacturer, but I made an assumption that their data on their box was accurate. That could be another thing that throws off this this process here. Personally, my form could be bad. I could have anything on here that's loose, or any other faulty equipment, or a bad rest. All right, so I'm going to get into this though, and what I'm going to do is bore sight this, and then go ahead and try to get this thing zeroed at 24 yards, and then we'll go through and go back to 50 perhaps, and then 100. It's very handy to be able to remove the modification on the buttstock of the rifle. Here's one example why, and another time is when you're cleaning the rifle. If you're not familiar with bore sighting, you look down the bore of the rifle and adjust the scope to line up on the object you centered in the bore of that rifle. For this setup, for some reason, I didn't need to make any adjustments.
No freaking way. So here would be 16. Right.
Not to get excited about, it's only 24 yards, but that last shot was right on the edge of that white, or point blanc. That's good enough for me to go back to 100 and shoot, I think. As you can see, I've moved back to 100 yards. I'm going to turn the power of the scope up, probably shoot the same box of ammo, and then my purpose here is to get this zeroed at 100, and then I'm going to start going through and evaluating those factory rounds that I looked at for a maximum point blank. But I'm not going to get these all tested. I'm fortunate. You can see I'm shooting in my family's fields here. I have a place to shoot. If you don't and you have to drive somewhere, you're going to have to coordinate it, and I wouldn't be doing it a week before the season. Something to think about. Here's something to keep in mind while we're doing this. I hope that wind's not bad, but something to keep in mind while I'm doing this is I see a lot of people single feed cartridges. The one problem with that I think could happen is at the range you may not find out or figure out that your rifle doesn't feed through the magazine properly. And that could be a problem in the field, and I would not want to figure that out the day of the hunt. I wouldn't want to figure that out the day of the hunt or anything. You should always, same as clothing and stuff, you should always practice how you play, basically. It's a saying my dad used to say. But you practice how you play. If I'm going to shoot with a full mag, I'm going to practice at the range with a full mag. Anyways. I feel it's important to talk about my equipment at this point. You can see it's very simple. I have a collapsible picnic table and old pant legs cut, sewn, and filled with rice to work as sandbags. This system's extremely portable and light for me, and for me, within my tolerances of hunting, it works. Especially with the sandbags, all I've got to do to adjust my rifle is squeeze the front or back set of sandbags to move the rifle muzzle up or down. In the end, you'll see that this is good enough to evaluate factory ammo and to zero my rifle. After this, my best practice is done in actual field shooting positions. You'll also notice that I shoot 3-round shot groups. That's because that's what I learned was adequate in the Army. Also, you'll see that there's a procedure I follow when I'm shooting, particularly binging oxygen. These are all things that I learned in my military service with an SF shooting instructor. There may be different ways of doing them, but this system has worked well for me. Can't tell. I think there's some value in this. That last round that's closest to the bullseye is my impact at 24 yards. Aiming at the center target, this is my point of impact at 100 yards with that rifle and the same rounds. All right, you probably saw it. I swung the camera around so it didn't look like anything shady was going on, where I wasn't showing you my hits, but it looked like 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch group down there. I got to come over, I got to go left 1.5 inch and down 2. So I'll make those corrections. I'm going to shoot 3 more of these, and then I'm just going to start checking this factory ammo for grouping, and I'll probably bring you in and just shoot. I'm going to make my adjustments, and then we'll go from there. Grouping opened up. Jiminy Christmas. think I'll shoot these ones and then grab the other Federal 180s and shoot them. You shoot well on my Winchester 270, or Model 70. Out here any longer, we'll be able to shoot the coons that come out like night crawlers. Alright, here's a close-up view of these groups. This is done with a 3-9 power scope, an entry-level 30-06 off of a picnic table with rice bags. I keep these targets and I record all the group sizing, and in addition I grade these group sizings. That way I have a quick reference to know which factory rounds group the best. I have bought these boxes of ammo and I would continue to shoot them, measuring their groups and getting a better sample size in the future. But this gives you an idea of my system for tracking factory rounds for that particular rifle. This is an example of my reloading notebook. Different reloads that have worked well or not so well out of different rifles. And then this is my grading scale. Anything less than an inch is an A, and then it goes from there.